Good morning. Today we're going to start with a warm-up from section 12.1. These are problems that we have worked through in the past. So again, it's just review. So we're going to start by taking the number under the square root and creating a factor tree. If I have the square root of 80, that's the same thing as 8 times 10. Now remember, there's different ways that you can break up 80. You could divide it in half. So you would have, 2 times 40. But in this case, I know that 8 times 10 equals 80. So I did 8 and 10. Now I also know that 8 breaks up into 4 and 2. So 4 times 2 gives me 8. 2 is prime. I know it doesn't break up into anything other than 1 times 2. So 2 is done. 4 breaks up into 2 times 2. And just like with the other two, those 2's are done. Now I have 10. 10 breaks up into 2 and 5. And when I get to that point, I'm going to take the square root of each of those numbers. So I've got how many 2's? 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to write 2 times 2 times 2. And I also have 2 5's. So my 2's are done. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's another one. Just kidding. I have 4 2's. It's always good to double check your work. That 2 is done. But I also have a 5. So I'm going to say times 5. That's done. So now what I'm going to do, when we're simplifying a square root, we've got to look for numbers that are the same. I have a pair of 2's. Those two numbers are the same. When I have two numbers that are the same, they're going to cancel out when they're under the square root, and that number is going to move to the outside. So now these 2's cancel out, and the 2 moves outside. I have another pair of 2's right here. Those 2's are also going to cancel out and move to the outside. When I move numbers to the outside, and if I have 2 of them out here, 2 or more, I have to multiply those numbers by each other. So now I have 2 times 2 square root of 5. My 5 stays the same because it doesn't have a 5 that matches with it. So when I have these numbers outside here, just like I did there, I just multiply them together. 2 times 2 gives me 4 square root of 5. There's my final answer. That's all I have to do when I'm simplifying a square root. Moving on to another type of problem, when I have to rationalize the denominator, that means that I need to get rid of the square root under the fraction. So you see how I have the square root of 3 here underneath this bottom part of the fraction? This is my denominator. The denominator is the bottom number. I can't have a square root in the denominator. So what do I have to do? Well, since it says divide by square root of 3, the opposite of divide is to multiply. And what I need to do is I need to multiply by the square root of 3 on the top and the square root of 3 on the bottom. When I do that, I can multiply across. So I'm going to write a little note to myself that I need to multiply across. So now I'm going to do 6 root 3 over the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. Now these two bottom numbers, those are the same thing under the square root. So that's just like saying 6 root 3 divided by the square root of 3 times 3. Since those two 3's are the same underneath the square root here, they're going to cancel out, and that 3 is going to move outside of the square root. So now I have 6 root 3 divided by 3. Remember, we always need to simplify the best we can. So can I cut 6 in half? Yep. Well, yes, but if I have 6 and 3, I know they both divide by 3. So if I were to cut 6 in half, I know that 2 times 3 gives me 6. And if I have 3, that's the same thing as 1 times 3 equals 3. What two numbers are the same? My 3's. Cancel out the numbers that are the same. There we go. And I'm left with 2 over 1, and the square root of 3 is left on top. So for my final answer, I can put 2 square root 3 divided by 1. Or, remember, when there's 1 on the bottom, the number on top is just your final answer. So 2 root 3 is your final answer. I would also accept this. Just remember, you don't need the 1 on the bottom. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense for you. And the next little video that I'm going to have you guys take a peek at is going to be a review of the lesson of simplifying square roots and rationalizing denominators. Hope you have a great day.